Third quarter budget amendment for the State Public School Fund, the Local Current Expense Fund, Federal Grants Fund, Capital Outlay Fund, and our other special grants or special revenue funds. Are we going to be able to pull it up, Dawn? No? Okay. We don't have the overhead tonight, so I'll just briefly run through the state budget amendment. Most of the adjustment from the state was a reduction in funding due to actual ADM being less than projected ADM. We also received our summer reading camp money, $244,000 from the state. We don't think that'll be enough to cover our actual expense, though, for summer camp. That is the bulk of the state budget amendment. The local budget amendment does record the local cost of our Apple one-to-one lease expense. It also does incur another $1.4 million in fund balance, or appropriate another $1.4 million in fund balance for this fiscal year. The bulk of that is the first lease payment to Apple. Also, there was some additional expense recorded for charter school payments due to the opening of Langtree. That was $345,000. It took until now to get an actual verifiable head count from Langtree. And then we had some unanticipated maintenance fees or expenses that had to be recorded and paid from fund balance. Federal programs, just some allotment revisions to some of our federal grants. Capital outlay budget amendment, the bulk of that was to record the payment of debt on yellow bus purchases by the state. And finally, the other special revenue fund, we recorded there the grant portion of the Apple lease payment, $5.8 million, and then the impact grant also entered into their second year of the grant. We started January 1st, and that was an additional revenue of $6.7 million. Be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. White, on the summer reading camps, what do we think the anticipated cost will be on that?
I think your local cost on an annual recurring basis, if the numbers stay about the same, is probably going to be about $80,000 to $90,000. So add that to the 245. You're looking at what, $325?
Thank you.
Can I also ask one other question? The I-3 grant private donations, you've got $99,000 here. Is that money to go towards the Lake Norman High School?
No, if you remember, the I-3 grant is different than the impact grant.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that's the one that Ms. Lewis runs. And those are the private donations that come in every year recurring. We had to get $1 million matched for that grant. That's what those funds are.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have the personnel portion of the consent agenda. We have items B, C, D, and E. Acceptance of resignations, retirements, rehires, terminations, and leaves of absence. The acceptance of classified personnel, approval of licensed personnel, and approval of administrative appointments. Dr. Lassane.
Dr. Cash, Mr. Johnson, members of the board, you've had the opportunity to review the April personnel report. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I've had the opportunity to review the minutes from March 3rd's Committee of the Whole meeting, March 9th mid-year review work session minutes, and March 10th Board of Education minutes. If there are no additions or corrections to those minutes, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda items and the minutes from March.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion. Is there a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, we'll move on into the recognition portion of our meeting. Have item A, the teacher feature. Dawn, Chris.
Yes, sir.
This month, our teacher feature shines the spotlight on Joanna Jester, 6th grade mathematics teacher at East Iredell Middle School. Ms. Jester has been teaching in North Carolina for 9 years, all of which have been with Iredell-Statesville schools. And during her tenure in the district, Ms. Jester has worked at Celeste Hinkle Elementary and East Iredell Middle Schools. Students in Ms. Jester's class enjoy a variety of learning. Ms. Jester has embraced blended learning by offering students a way to take responsibility of their own learning. 3 days a week, students rotate through several stations: a station of review, a small focus group station where Ms. Jester is able to provide some one-on-one personalized learning, and a technology or hands-on manipulative station. Ms. Jester became a teacher because she wanted to see students grow up to be respectful and successful adults, and she has learned that teaching is more about having a relationship with her students.
Mostly, I've decided to be a teacher because I just want to see kids grow up to be respectful and successful adults. I think it's a lot more about than just teaching math. It's about making sure that these kids are in an environment where they feel safe and are able to explore and discover and make mistakes and feel comfortable in doing that. And a lot of times it is, like I said, a lot more than just teaching math and teaching the subject area. It's about teaching children to just be responsible citizens.
Stay tuned for next month's teacher feature as we continue to recognize our outstanding teachers.
Thank you, Don. Next, we'll move on to item B, the Community Schools Award. Susie Weiberg.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. I think we all know our district is very fortunate in having as many solid partnerships as we do. Statesville Regional Development, the economic arm of our community, has certainly made their mark in the hearts and minds of many of our schools. Mike Smith and John Merrick are the best team ever. Statesville Regional Development is a public-private partnership of local governments and business leaders dedicated to promoting the vast industrial, commercial, and lifestyle advantages of our region. Representing the cities of Statesville and Troutman, as well as Upper Iredell County, they provide a variety of services to help new and existing businesses locate, expand, and thrive. Now, none of that mission statement says a word about being involved in our schools. There is no mention of the fabulous PowerPoint that John Merrick is taking into our middle schools called Made in Statesville. This interactive presentation clearly shows manufacturing and career opportunities for students right here in town. During the presentation, you'd be amazed to hear all the, "Oh, I didn't know that was made here," comments. The mission statement does not mention serving on the Career Advisory Board. It does not mention the time we've spent brainstorming ideas about making cool commercials to present to our middle and high school students, continuing to make them aware of manufacturing career opportunities right here in Statesville. Nowhere does it mention bringing together businesses to help a school with a very specific need. The Teaching for Jobs initiative has a place on their website, but I'd be willing to bet that few other economic development officers would drop everything, and he did this, to run to a high school to film a student who had just invented a fully functioning hovercraft. They did. So these are just a few examples of the partnership our district has with Statesville Regional Development, and they barely scratch the surface. Their impact on our community is of enormous importance, but Mike Smith and John Merrick give life to this organization. They bring hope and opportunity to our students, and we are very grateful. So, gentlemen, if you would please come forward, and I believe Mr. Rogers has the certificate for you. Thank you for everything.
Next, we have the elementary superintendent's art show winners. Presentation, Susie.
They're really terrific. This is a very fun time of the year for us because there's just art filling everything and wonderful students and terrific fine arts instructors. And I think if you asked everyone who has an office at the ADR Education Center, everyone who comes into that building from the community, and every employee who takes training at the ADR Education Center on Garfield, when their favorite time of the year to be in that building is, they would all say when art is being judged, because the walls are lined with art, and everyone loves to see it. We use people from the community, artists from the community, to do the judging. And now, after these number of years, artists, local artists, and Arts Council directors, when they see me coming, they cross the street to avoid me because they know that I'm going to ask them to judge art, and it's very, very difficult. So tonight, we are acknowledging the fabulous art teachers that we have in our district, and they're very amazing students. And we always get this a little bit confusing because there's certificates and there's things attached, and some students come and some don't, so bear with us as we try to get through this. Mr. Johnson is going to help me. We divide the elementary so that kinders and first compete against each other, and then second and third grade, and then fourth and fifth grade. And I know some people had called me and said they would be here, but always at the last minute, someone else will show up. So in kindergarten and first grade, first place was Mahil Manoharan from Cottle Creek, and I think they were going to be here. So if you would please come up. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. Second place, Persephone Laveau from Union Grove. Third place, Isaac Wallen from Lake Norman. And we have two honorable mentions, Kylie Forsyth from Third Creek and Natalie Augustine from Lake Norman. And I think Natalie was going to be here as well. Nope. Yes. Who's calling you? Yay. No, she's honorable mention. I wish I could jump off a step without falling. Now the second and third grade, and I think that Julie Harris was going to be here. I think that was the only RSVP I got. Eben Fish was first place. He's in third grade from Cottle Creek. Second place was Madison Lawrence from Central. Third place, Julie Harris from Sharon Elementary. Oh, yay. Hinesley Dillon from Cottle Creek was an honorable mention, and Claudia Davis from Shepherd Elementary is an honorable mention also. Yay! 4th and 5th grade. First place was Jonas Fish from Cottle Creek. Second place, Julianne Tyne from Woodland Heights, and I believe Julianne was going to be here. Third place, Jose Jimenez from Harmony Elementary. And honorable mention, Chantel Bahina from Cool Spring Elementary.
Congratulations to all you art show winners. We'll next move on to the Red Cross recognition. Catherine Harrigan. Okay.
Thank you so much for letting me come and be a part of this meeting. We have 3 different programs that we do with the school system. The first one's called the Pint Size Hero program that we work with our elementary schools. We do an education program with the school, and then we tie in a blood drive with that. For every student that gets someone to come in and donate, they're able to get a prize from the Red Cross, and then we do a celebration. And we're teaching them at a young age that the gift of life, by giving that pint of blood, they're helping save 3 lives locally, across North Carolina and nationally, so their schools are making a huge impact. Cloverleaf Elementary School has 2 drives with us. The first drive, they collected 43 pints of blood, which may have saved or sustained 129 lives. I don't know if did it go out? And I work with Danita Dowell, and she is coaching softball tonight, so she couldn't be here, but we will get them their certificate once the second drive's done, and they'll be collecting a lot more. The next is our future blood donors, which is with our middle schools. I work with Brawley Middle School, and they collected 29 pints of blood, which could save or sustain 87 lives. And our high schools do a lot. Iredell County has some great high schools, and I don't think I have to tell you guys that for you to know. But these kids are great, and they do a lot. We also offer scholarships to our high schools for doing blood drives with us. West Iredell High School, I work with the HOSA Club and Miss Carol Johnson, and if she can come up here for me. West Iredell High School collected 170 pints of blood, which may have saved or sustained 510 lives. North Iredell High School, I work with the FFA and the ROTC. Mr. Clinton, if you can come up here. North Iredell High School collected 136 pints of blood, which may have saved or sustained over 408 lives. Is Statesville High School here yet? Statesville High School? Sandra Thorne? Okay, so Statesville High School, I work with the HOSA and Sandra Thorne and Paige Fox, and together they collected 190 pints of blood, which may have saved or sustained over 570 lives. Is Lake Norman High School here? She was coming from a trip, so I didn't know if she'd be up here yet. I work with Lake Norman High School, I work with the FFA program. The FFA program, they still have one more drive. They do 3 a year, but so far they have collected 129 pints of blood, which may have saved or sustained 387 lives. and South Iredell High School. I work with the HOSA Club and Kathleen Green. They collected 242 pints of blood, which may have saved or sustained 726 lives. I just want to say thank you so much to these schools because, as you heard, that's over 1,000 people that have been affected by your schools and by what they do. And it's an amazing thing that I get to be a part of and I get to see. And I just want you guys to know how grateful we are and how much we appreciate it. And these students are great. You guys have a great school system and the kids are great. And I look forward to next year and getting more. And I will send Mr. Johnson all of the scholarship information for you guys so you can see what the schools are getting, and also once Lake Norman finishes their third drive, how many units they collected. So thank you guys.
Thank you. We always appreciate the work of the Red Cross as well. Let's move on to the middle school season champion recognitions. Mr. Armstrong.
Dr. Cash, members of the board, Mr. Johnson, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Tonight, we would like to recognize and congratulate the following middle school teams and coaches for their outstanding accomplishments this school year. These teams were the regular season champions in their sport, and this is the first time we've recognized regular season champs. We have tournaments from Super Tuesday to volleyball tournaments and basketball tournaments, but in working with the middle school ADs, a lot of the hard work happens all season long. So I'm proud to say that we'll get an opportunity tonight to congratulate these teams publicly. I'm not sure who's here, so I know there's some coaches and captains, and I know there are entire teams here. So, and I'll ask for some of you to help me. If Mr. Shoemaker, if I could have you help me recognize, and if all members of the North Iredell Middle School basketball team, please come forward. Yeah, that's it. Coach Brandon Shore. Our boys' regular season basketball champion, and if I have Ms. Bonham to help me hand out this award, is the very next one, is the boys from Brawley Middle School. If they, all members of that team would please come forward. Brawley Middle School. That's it. Yep. Ms. Bonham, if you would stay there, Ms. Bonham, We're going to, the next team we will celebrate tonight is for football, our football regular season champion, also Brawley Middle School. The next regular season champion that we will recognize tonight in volleyball, we had co-champions, but we'll recognize them one at a time. One of our co-champions for volleyball was North Iredell Middle School. Mr. Shoemaker, if you could help. And Dr. Cash, I'll need you for the last two presentations. Our co-champion, also for volleyball, West Iredell Middle School. And our regular season wrestling champions, also from West Iredell Middle School.
Okay, next we'll go to the Statesville Middle School West Regional Champions from the North Carolina ASA State Art Competition. Mr. Byron Jones.
I'd like to thank the board for having us here tonight. I've been in this for 26 years now, and these girls right here are the main reason. They're prime examples of why I went into education. I've had most of these young ladies for 3 years, and we had an opportunity to enter the NCASA, which, as you may or may not know, sponsors Quiz Bowl and those kind of events as well. But they also sponsor an art contest, which featured 2 prompts this year. We were given the prompts 5 weeks before the West Regional Championship. One prompt was to showcase the unexpected. The other prompt was to illustrate the song Imagine by John Lennon. As soon as my girls heard that, we've been doing illustrated lyrics for 3 years. They just had a big smile and said, I think we might have this one. Some of their artwork is featured up here. We actually came in West Regional champions with the second highest composite score on a 5-point scale out of 24 competing middle schools in the state of North Carolina. We were the second highest composite score with a 4.4. We also have one young lady, Elena Student, who had a perfect 5.0 from all 3 judges in drawing. By winning the West Regionals, which they have their shirts on for being West Regional champions, they were invited to the state finals at Simon G. Atkins A&T High School in Winston-Salem this past a week ago Saturday, April 5th. We were competing against 12 other schools in the state. And Elena Student, please stand up. She received another 5.0 for her pencil drawing from all 3 judges and received first place in the state of North Carolina for her pencil drawing. And if I can have the whole team. Lillian Andrade received 4th place in painting. Paisha Bright, step forward. You received 2nd place in mixed media sculpture. Cara Briggs placed 2nd place in printmaking. Kayla Briggs, 4th place in printmaking, and they took a composite score, and we wound up being the 2nd place in the state, losing out only to J.M. Robinson Middle School, which is almost a 1,000-student middle school, by 0.8 of a point. Mr. Johnson, we put together team photos with their ribbons and their T-shirts, and we also have some of their artwork that placed in state finals. I would really like to thank Mr. Thompson, our principal, because without him letting us have an honors art class starting last year, which many of these young ladies were in, instead of going to remediation classes and that kind of thing, these are the kids who score 3s and 4s on their EOG, who get A and B honor roll every 9 weeks. They've been in my honors art class for 2 years, which means they get an extra hour of art per day. So they get almost 2 hours of art per day, counting their regular rotation. I've taught high school art. I've taught elementary art. I'd stack these young ladies up against any students that I've ever had in my 26 years. And I think them winning 2nd place in the state, they're just, I mean, you give me an open mic and it's going to be trouble when I talk about my kids. These young ladies are just, they're like daughters to me. I mean, I've had most of them for 3 years, and they are just, and they are just unbelievable. We've got teachers here, we've got parents here supporting. They carpooled us. You know, they carpooled behind the bus to Winston-Salem. You know, we sat around eating food at Mellow Mushroom afterwards. You would think they would be at, you know, like almost like many adults. I'd like to thank Mr. Kelly for actually coming out to our school. He took our invitation and came out and talked to several of our young ladies in the honors art class. And one lady in particular, Cara Briggs, told him that 3 years ago, Mr. Thompson said that this group of 6th graders could be agents of change at our school, because our classroom motto is, be the change you wish to see in others. And our other motto is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, it's a habit. And I remember Mr. Kelly looking at me going, how old is she? And Cara said, I'm 13, sir. So these are the products of the Iredell-Statesville school system, and you guys should be amazingly proud for these young ladies. This is their state championship, second place trophy.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
So, I know that when I toured this group, I know Mr. Rogers was also there at one time. And if you haven't seen that display at Statesville Middle School, it's not just an art display, it's an experience. It is really phenomenal. They are really, really good.
Thank you. They're great kids.
Okay, next item is the Battle of the Books winners, David Blattner, or Susie Wahlberg.
Clearly, I am not David Blattner. And now I know why he didn't want to be here, because he did not want to follow Mr. Jones and these wonderful students. Well, I'm second string, but this is a very important time. Iredell-Statesville Schools recently held its annual Battle of the Books competition. And East Iredell Elementary won the elementary division, and Lakeshore Middle not only won the middle school division, but they also won the regional and will be headed to the state competition in early May. Now, I'm hoping that the coaches are here. Would be Rita Uten and Joan Milliken. I'm sorry. Are the coaches here? Yay! So maybe they can come up, and if they want to say anything, and all the students are here too. So from Lakeshore Middle, we have Mackenzie Libby, sorry. Gabrielle Lassard. Oh, here you are. Oh, I'll just say that. You handle it.
Gabby Lassard, Sumi Verma, Anish Nasheen, Jalen Price, Aaron McCluskey, Taryn Morgan. Is that all of you? Come on up. Yes, we competed against 18 counties to win the regionals, and with 100 counties in the state, and most counties have about 10 middle schools in them as an average, where we will be one of 9 competing for the state championship title. And this group is 5 sixth graders, 1 7th, and 1 8th.
We just want to thank you for the opportunity to allow us to be a part of the Battle of the Books, and our team is so excited to be here. They've hardly taken their medals off since they won them. So if I could have Alexa Schaup, Rebecca Varela, Haley Starnes, Walton Cooney, Malik Sherrill, and Anna Vu. And am I missing one? And, sorry, and Samantha Scholler.
Who is the coach of this group?
Okay, Mr. Kelly, I'll get you later. I am Rita Uten.
Just making sure.
He was my biology teacher, so he wants some recognition as well. Okay, and I'm Rita Uten with East Iredell Elementary School.
Next, we have the North Iredell High School Livestock Judging Team. Dawn Crisson.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Tonight, we're really excited to once again recognize members of the highly successful North Iredell High School FFA. You guys were here earlier this fall, I believe, and we're happy to have you back tonight to recognize you for livestock judging. First, we're going to start with the junior team, who from both of these teams competed against more than 60 other teams across the state. The junior team finished 4th. So I'm going to have the juniors come forward. Skylar Eisenhower, Jessica Gallagher, Carter Lawrence, and Karen Sloan. And the senior team, and they brought home 2nd place from among more than 60 schools in the state of North Carolina. So congratulations to these guys. Gotta hear their names, right? Wesley Sloan, Luke Holland, Austin Rash, and Anna Smith.
Then we'll move on to our spelling bee winners. Are you doing that for Teresa?
I'm pinch hitting tonight.
Okay, so Dawn Creason in place of Teresa Stevens.
Thank you. The district spelling bee was held February 6th at Matt Gray Auditorium, featuring 26 spellers from across the district's elementary and middle schools. The bee this year lasted 47 rounds. We've kind of talked amongst ourselves, and none of us can recall a spelling bee here lasting longer than that. We were getting a little bit desperate for words, I'm not going to lie. The first 17 rounds included kids from all the schools, but the last 30 rounds was kind of a battle between two girls who are very familiar to us. They've been here for lots of different reasons, lots of different recognitions. Tonight, I'd like to recognize our runner-up, Erin McCluskey from Lakeshore Middle School. You still here? It's okay. Mr. Bader. And is Florence Lou here? Don't see her. I think she was signed up to get her MacBook tonight or do the MacBook training at Mount Morn. Florence was this year's champion. She also competed at the Winston-Salem Journal Spelling Bee, where she tied for third. She just narrowly missed out on a chance to go to Washington, D.C. So congratulations to these ladies.
That concludes our recognition portion of the meeting tonight. Again, congratulations to all the recipients for these awards and recognitions. And again, we really appreciate the representation you give our school district when you're out in the public doing the work for us. We'll move on into the non-consent agenda. We have first the item A, the facilities use renewals for churches. And again, this is a voting item. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, sir, Dr. Cash, members of the board, and Mr. Johnson. You have before you 6 churches who have asked for renewal for the next year at some of our various high schools. All have requested that use and have met with the principals or their designee and have been approved for use. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Have there been any issues, Rob?
No, sir. Have been very good partners.
Any other comments or questions regarding our sharing of our facilities with the churches? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve this renewal request as stated.
I make that motion, yeah, or whatever.
I'll second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Then we have some first readings over the next 3 items, I believe. School transfers policy number 4150 regarding school assignment. Dr. Hargrave.
Dr. Cash, Mr. Johnson, members of the board, I brought this policy to you on last Monday for discussion and also for to make a recommendation. And this policy deals with, as you said, transfers. The piece that I want to bring before your attention again is in Section G, which is the high school athletic eligibility. This policy was also brought before you this summer due to some changes that the North Carolina High School Athletic Association had made. And what that did was clarify eligibility for students when they move from one school system to the next. As long as they were with a legal guardian and they established domicile in a school system, then they were immediately eligible to participate in sports. The issue comes when students within a school system transfers from one school to the next. What the state said was, as long as one, there was domicile established, which means that they had a residence in that particular school district, and also that the principals, both principals must agree that the student was eligible to participate in athletics. We tried this all year, and what we found was that this did cause some issues for principals, because you may have one principal that had knowledge of the student, and that student may have been leaving them, and they may not have been okay with that. The fact that they were losing an outstanding athlete and an outstanding student, and then the principals that was willing to receive them was kind of looked at as the hero. And so what we found was that we had principals that were being pitted against one another if the parents were not happy with the decision. So what we would like to recommend is that we set up a athletic commission, which will be comprised of the deputy superintendent, the athletic director, and an at-large member approved by the superintendent. And what this commission would do, they would look at every individual situation, gather all the information, and determine whether a student was eligible to participate in sports once they move from one school district to another. This will sit for 30 days. We'll gather any feedback that we can, and if we get any, we'll bring that back before you, before asking for a vote next month. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Just to make sure I understand, if a student moves and establishes a residence, this policy does not apply. The revised policy would not apply. It would only apply if they transferred and still stayed where they currently live.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
What kind of person do you think we'd be looking for the at-large member? The reason why I ask, I've already had a couple people who would be interested in doing that. Do we have an idea of what that person would be like, or what the requirements would be?
One person that we had in mind, and we have not asked this person because we need to get it approved by Mr. Johnson, would be our former athletic director, Mr. Rothwell, and certainly we would entertain other members before deciding on who that third member would be.
Any other questions or comments about the proposed policy? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, we'll bring this back next month for a formal vote. We'll move on then to the Policy Code 5000, Schools in the Community. Again, first reading. Melissa?
Thank you, Dr. Cash. This policy is being updated to note the requirement that the school system post on its website required information on how state funds are utilized, and also updates some legal references. Do you guys have any questions I can try to answer on this policy change?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I brought it up last Monday night too, and didn't get a whole lot of feedback, but I think we need to add to the policy also how local funds are used, because that information is just as relevant, and I'm sure just as easy for you to put on there as the state funds.
Dr. Cash, does this require the consensus of the board to add that to the policy?
I would think so. And again, this is, I guess, for comment over the next 30 days.
Okay.
So I would say, why don't we discuss this and bring it forward at our next committee of the whole meeting?
Sure.
And then make sure we've reached a consensus at that point, and then have it ready to vote next.
I will state for the record that our audited statements are online for, ever since I've started, at least for the past 5 years. It has a lot of detail on how all of our expenditures are spent. So we could talk about maybe what you'd like to see. And
Probably just something a little easier to look at. I mean,
Yeah.
I've looked at those, and they're quite detailed.
Right, the back is really where you have to got to flip through a bunch of pages to get to really to something that may make some sense to some people. So, all right, no problem.
Thank you.
All right, next then is the policy number 9120, the bidding for construction work. Again, a first reading.
Okay. This policy does have quite a number of changes. The first of which is that to be consistent with an updated state statute, we needed to put some language in the policy that forbids the board from doing work with a contractor or subcontractors who do not verify employment status through E-Verify. That is something that is already in place within the district, just needs to be denoted in policy. It also adds the provision that we give preference to North Carolina resident firms over non-resident firms. It updates the bidding methods. And again, this is all related to construction bids. It increases the formal and informal bidding thresholds to be in alignment with state statute. And it also adds a provision for dispute resolutions. Again, this is a first reading. Any questions I can answer on this policy update?
It really doesn't state how you give preference to resident firms. I mean, it just leaves it out there. I mean, I would suppose that if you got two bids that came in that were equal, one being an outside firm and one being a North Carolina firm, you'd certainly take the North Carolina firm, but.
Well, whenever we score bids, RFPs, we use a rubric, and we use, we assign different point values to different quantities or different aspects of the bid that we're looking for, and that would probably be something that we would add to the rubric. Now, maybe not would be weighted very heavily, but it would be something that we would need to factor in when we are scoring the bids that come in.
Other comments or questions?
Okay, thank you.
And next, we have another voting item, E, the memo of lease agreement at Fort Dobbs. Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Cash, members of the board, Mr. Johnson. We have a partnership with Fort Dobbs. They do a lot of educational work with us, especially with our 4th and 5th graders. And we have several double-wide mobiles that are unoccupied at this time. They would like to use one of those. They will pay for all setup costs. They will pay for all the cost involved. The board will not have to pay any cost, and we will help them to set that up. That will give them an inside educational venue for our students and also for the public. And then as they raise funds, they'd like to have the option to purchase that unit when they get funds available. That's what this agreement is about.
Kenny, do you know what our out-of-pocket cost on that's going to be?
0.
I mean, even for the setup?
Yes. They'll pay for all setup, all moving, everything associated.
And maintenance once they get it.
They'll maintain it when they get it.
Right.
Other questions or comments for Dr. Miller? Not entertain a motion that we approve this lease agreement.
I'll make a motion that we approve this lease agreement.
Okay, a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Next, then, we have item F, the lottery applications. Dr. Miller, it's also a voting item.
We have 2 lottery applications we would like to take to the county commissioners tomorrow night. Both of these are projects which have been completed, and we're asking for reimbursement of funds that we've already expended. This will bring the money back to our fund balance, which we usually we try to front these projects, then recover our money from the lottery proceeds. So there are 2 projects. One is the Career Academy and Technical School Fire Training and Expansion related to it. And the other, and it is $141,746.53. The other project, of course, is our Parkertown Road purchase. We paid the initial payment, and the state allows us to use lottery proceeds to purchase property. So we would ask for reimbursement for that first payment. $202,930.15. Any other questions?
Questions or comments? Not entertain a motion that we seek reimbursement for the county commissioners for those lottery proceeds used.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Miller.
Thank you.
Then I believe items G, H, and I, as we mentioned earlier, are being postponed. So that brings us to item J, the budget update. Melissa White and Mr. Brady Johnson.
I think I'm setting a record tonight for speaking. This is an update on our local current expense budget for 2014-15. Okay, just ignore Dawn, she's not here. The details can be found, obviously, behind the memo. This does include an estimated increase in funding from Iredell County of $611,360. Again, I will emphasize this is our starting point, and we do anticipate receiving more funds from the county than what we have currently in our preliminary budget. With that in mind, we are right now projected to use $1,083,615 in local fund balance for next year. Again, this is preliminary, and we do know we have some work ahead, and we are anticipating some additional funds from the county. Also, our state planning allotment was not available at the time that this package was put together. It did come last Thursday, the Thursday before, I think it was last Thursday. And so we have been working on plugging that in and seeing how it will impact our local budget. This is the second year of the state's biennial budget, so we did have a pretty good framework with which to make some estimates as to what that state budget will look like. So the impact should not be too great one way or the other. This local preliminary budget does also include $352,700 in our estimated costs for a potential state raise for employees. Now remember, we don't have that many local paid employees, but all state paid employees receive a local supplement. So if their salary goes up and it's paid by the state, that will also increase the amount that we incur for supplements. And like I said, you've got the detail comparison of the revenues, preliminary budget for this year, preliminary budget for next year, preliminary actual results for this year for the revenues and expenditures. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
This proposed budget of that last item there, 352.7,
right?
Is that, you say that's just for the supplement? Or does
Right.
that include
There will be some, we have some locally paid employees. So we projected a 3% pay raise based on what DPI recommended for boards of education to plan for next year. Now, obviously, the General Assembly has not come back in session. There is no pay increase in their biennial budget, but we, have heard talks, as I'm sure everyone has, about them trying to do something, if not with teachers only, with all employees. So you'll have some local paid employees that 3% is in there. And then for all state paid employees who receive a supplement, if their state pay goes up by 3% and we pay a percentage of that as a local supplement, then that'll make the supplement go up also.
So although we don't know and have no idea, you're basing this on 3%?
Right. So reality, that may be high. But that was what we were told to work off of at the time. And so until we get hard, fast numbers, we're going to go ahead and plan for that. And if we get 3%, great, we'll already have it in our budget.
If we end up getting more from the county, which we don't know at this point, will we apply that back to the fund balance or to be closer to a balanced budget? Is that
Yes, sir.
a good assumption?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And should we not get that, then we'll be back to the drawing board to bring some additional reductions to the board to consider eventually.
Board members, it's important to point out to you that back at our mid-year review, we debated on how much to ask the county for this year. So if you'll take a look at that chart that's up on the screen there, you can see the trend data on the request to the county commissioners from 2008 all the way to the current budget year. The right-hand column shows you what the county commissioners were able to give us. And so last year, we, based on your recommendation, we asked for $37.2 million. And that would have done a lot of good things had we been funded at that level. But the discussion we had that Sunday afternoon was maybe we should tone this down and be a little more realistic. And that's what the message that I got from the county manager was. Be realistic in your request this year. And so our request of 32.6, please remember that we already made, help me with this number, Melissa, about $620,000 in cuts.
Right.
And you approved that a month ago, and that was the assistant principals losing an entire month of employment. That was the reduction of one social worker position, and it was also the reduction of 2 weeks of employment for the instructional facilitators. So that $620,000 was carved out of our budget before we even began coming up with a figure. So we've made a good faith effort to show the commissioners that we're willing and able to make tough decisions. The other thing that's really important to remember about this budget request is that if we get that number right there, that just helps us maintain what we've got. It doesn't bring back anything that's been taken away, and it does not give us anything to expand. Here's some examples. In that budget request that you see right there, $32.6 million, that does not include the restoration of the local supplement to our employees. Remember, several years ago, we reduced that supplement from 8% to 6% for teachers. We reduced it for our classified employees from 6.6 to 4.6. So if we wanted to bring that supplement back, for every percentage point that you move that number, you'll need $1 million in funding to do that. If you wanted to restore the full 2%, then that figure right there needs to go up to $34.6 million. Also, this does not give us any money to expand any of our new options. There's no money in this budget to expand the IB program to the primary years. We know if we would start an IB primary years program in the Statesville vicinity north and one in the southern end of the county, those programs would fill up immediately. But there's no money to do that. As badly as we want to do it, there's nothing in the budget to do that. There is no expansion planned for the addition of a STEAM program in the Iredell-Statesville schools: science, technology, engineering, and math. We know for sure that if we would designate several of our schools as STEAM schools and make them a magnet school, they would fill up with students. But there's no money in the budget to do that. Tonight you heard from Statesville Middle School, and the arts over there are flourishing. If we would go to Statesville Middle School and put a STEAM program in there, which is the same thing, science, technology, engineering, and math, with the arts added to that, and make it a magnet school, the school would fill up from kids all over the district. But in this budget request, there's not a penny to do that. There is no increase for improving our coaches supplement. That was a request that came from the athletic director, but we didn't put any money in there this year to do that. There's no restoration of the SAP program, the Student Assistance Program at all of our middle and high schools. That program was cut 50% several years ago. We're not bringing back a single position. There's no restoration of a single teaching position or a TA position in this budget. There is no restoration of the social workers. As a matter of fact, there's one more social worker cut embedded in this budget. There is no expansion of the Spanish dual immersion program. That program has revolutionized East Iredell Middle School. If we could do that in another part of the county, it would have the same effect. But again, there's no money in this budget. This is a very lean budget that doesn't expand anything, and it doesn't restore anything. It only maintains the status quo. So if this budget request is not honored, then we will have a couple tough choices. One, you can use fund balance for the third consecutive year to the tune of $1.1 million.
If it isn't, then if you don't want to use that fund balance, then we will have to sit back down and make some really tough decisions about where to cut the budget again to the tune of $1.1 million. The last page in your packet is 20 expansion requests that came to the Budget Committee this year from department heads throughout the school system. And the Budget Committee this year looked at every one of these very, very seriously, but you can see that of the $857,000 in request, the Budget Committee only brought forth the approval of $234,000 in expansions. So I think the staff has done a really good job of taking a look at this and bringing forward a very lean and very reasonable budget. And I sure hope that every penny of that will be approved by the county. I think we can certainly justify that request.
Oh, we've talked about all this. This is like a lot of other places. You hate to talk about money, but it runs on money. I look at this and I say, this does not, I'm not arguing, of course, but this doesn't maintain what we have. We're losing every year. According to these figures, we lose every year. And when I look at this, the thing that stands out to me is, in 2013, 2014, we requested 37, and that 37 was a lean request. Now, the administration did what the board said, asked for what we needed, and that's what they asked for, and they got 31. What should have happened was the 37 was requested, the 37 was received, and the 37 was maintained in 2014-15. Then you would have had something to work with within the system that we have. We are losing every year. If you stay at the same numbers, you lose every year. And basically, we're staying at the same numbers and losing. So when I look at this, that space out there, I'm hoping, they say, well, you want 32, I'll give you 31. I'd love to have 37.
The other thing to keep in the back of your mind, that if this budget request is approved, that 1 year from today, we're going to be sitting in this room scratching our heads figuring out how to replace positions that are currently being paid for out of our federal grants. The I-3 grant is expiring in a year. We have 5 instructional facilitators being paid out of that grant. We have 3 reading intervention specialists being paid out of that grant. The park grant will be expiring. We currently have 3 nurses being paid out of that grant, and we have 1 SAP coordinator at Lake Norman High School being paid out of that grant. So even if this is approved, 1 year from today, you're going to be having a conversation about either increasing that budget to the tune of another $2 million or carving another $2 million out of your budget. So the challenges are not over, and there are tough, tough decisions that lie ahead for us. Other comments or questions?
Gee, thank you, Melissa.
And just report the figures. Won't shoot the messenger.
More work to do.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's come time for the budget, budget's always on our mind, but public comment. We have several speakers signed up tonight. First is Craig Mara to talk about campaign policies. I will ask again, I know most of you all that are signed to speak tonight are familiar with the format of our meetings, but just so that we remain consistent with the public comments, I'll ask that each speaker, again, introduce yourself, the topic that you're speaking about, and then try to limit comments to 3 minutes each. Craig.
Dr. Cash, school board, and Mr. Johnson. My name is Craig Morrow. I am a candidate for school board election, and I just wanted to come to you tonight and talk to you about the policy of the school system and the school board concerning political candidates being on campus or not being on campus. I have something that I'll be glad to present here. Back in late February, I was trying to decide what to do as far as my campaign. And I went over to the Board of Elections and talked to Ms. Gallagher. I wanted to know, as far as the state, what was right and what was wrong. And I told her what I wanted to do, and she said, I have no problems as far as the state of North Carolina is concerned. She advised me to contact Mr. Johnson and let him know what I wanted to do. And basically, I have a letter here that I will read if requested that I wanted to send to the principals inside District 3, which I'm running for. I was asking for the opportunity to be able to go and sit down one afternoon after school in the media center for 45 minutes, not a compulsory meeting of anybody, but it was going to be open to staff, teachers, principal, and community. So I sent Mr. Johnson the email stating that to him, and I asked him or told him in my email that it'd be fine for it to go ahead and send it to Mr. McMillan, the school attorney. I wanted it all to be legal, and I wanted it to be fair to all candidates. I was not asking for anything for myself that would not be granted to any other candidate. It was sent on to Mr. McMillan. About a week later, I get an email back from Mr. Johnson. And it was basically CC'd from Mr. McMillan after reviewing my request. And according to that, Mr. McMillan did not see anything wrong with any candidate as far as school going on the school grounds and having a meet and greet. So Mr. Johnson basically back to me said that he would go ahead with it. Well, when I hear go ahead, I thought it was notifying or letting the principals know that something was coming. Well, didn't hear anything for about a week. Started wondering about it, so I told my wife, I said, let's send an email directly to the principals of the schools. We sent an email to each principal in that district. Didn't hear anything for another week. And I thought, now, something is really wrong here. So actually then we sent a letter through the U.S. Postal Service to each of the principals. So finally, after we did all of that, trying to figure out where we're going and what we were going to do, I finally get back an email. And this email, if you want me to, you've got a copy. It was all CC'd to each one of you school board members. You actually got 3 of them. If you want me to, I know my time's out, but I would ask for another minute or two to read that, if that's permissible.
Pleasure of the board. Mr. Chairman, I'd say give Mr. Morrow another minute.
Okay, the first one, Wednesday at our principals meeting, we gave principals copies of our board policies related to campaigning and political activity. Several had received your email. The principals unanimously requested that we not allow candidates to visit school. I think their concern is twofold. First, they do not want to be perceived as being politically active or involved in one candidacy over another. Second, Bill McMillan's advice to us was that if we allow one candidate, then we have to open the door to all candidates, including those from other areas such as sheriff, the register of deeds, commissioners. I hope you understand, but I feel obligated to support the principals. Please call me if you have any questions. Well, now I'm totally confused. I felt like I was being given the opportunity when I first notified Mr. Johnson. Now, and Mr. McMillan didn't see a problem with it, but now here, about 2 weeks later, comes this email, and it had been sent to the principals. Second email that I'd like to read, if I can, please, that on Friday, March the 14th, 11:26 a.m., this is an email back to Mr. Johnson. Thank you for updating me upon my request to visit the schools. I will comply with the request to not be on school grounds during the election period.
I would expect that all candidates, including incumbent school board member candidates, follow the same request to not be on school property in their district during this election period, other than the school forum at Statesville High School on Saturday, March the 15th. All candidates should be treated in the same manner. In fairness to all candidates involved in the upcoming election, I would expect this to be an across-the-board policy, including incumbents. I would have appreciated this information when I first emailed you concerning my intent. I'm running for one reason only, and that is to be there for the students who will be the future of Iredell County. And then the third one, Wednesday at our principals meeting, we gave principals copies of the board policies related to campaigning. Several had received your email. The principals unanimously requested that we not allow candidates to visit schools. And I think this concern is twofold. First, they do not want to be perceived as being politically active or involved. Secondly, Bill McMillan's advice to us was that if we allow one candidate, then we have to open the door to all candidates, including those from other areas, and it goes through all the officers. Well, being totally confused of what you can do and can't do as a candidate has become very, very hard for a man that tries to live by what's right and do what's right. And so then, in the last couple of days, I get this information that down at Brawley's school, which is on school grounds, one of the school facilities, that there was a fundraising dinner for Mr. Brawley. I have no problem with that. But there was 2 school board candidates that were there, Ms. Bonham and Ms. Sawyer. And I was not there personally, but I have heard from other people in that area, there was campaign signs on that school property, and there was words mentioned about campaigning during that event. So, board, I'm a candidate that is trying to do what was asked of me as a candidate. My whole problem with this was up front. There should have been, whatever the political guidelines are as far as candidates, that should have been given to each one of us candidates that was running for Iredell-Statesville schools so that we knew up front what we could and could not do. But it looks like this whole thing changed during the process from me being sort of led to believe that I could do it. The attorney basically said I could do it as long as everybody else got that same opportunity. And then we go to the principals, we get the principals to vote for us not to go. So that's where I'm at tonight, is I'm confused. I hate to go publicly and tell everybody in the county this whole situation because it's not going to set very well with a lot of people in the county. But I'm trying to do what's right. I'm trying to do what was asked of me. And I come to you tonight because if I can't find out an answer that is concrete, that will be applicable to every candidate, I will have to send this on somewhere else to the state and beyond for help in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Martin Page, about school facilities, I believe.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm speaking on the same subject, use of school facilities for campaign activities. I, too, had spoken with Mr. Johnson and asked if I could use school facilities after school, and he informed me that Craig had already talked to him and that the principals had voted unanimously not to allow any political activity on school grounds. And I even concurred with Mr. Johnson that I felt that was probably the proper thing to do. And Mr. Johnson made a suggestion to me. He said, Martin, why don't you just rent a restaurant? And that's what I'm doing. I'm renting a restaurant to meet with teachers since I'm not allowed on school property. It bothered me greatly that our system has allowed for political activity to be on school property. I went and got a copy of the facilities use agreement, and I noticed it wasn't signed. So I spoke with the principal and assistant principal at Brawley, and they both said they would not sign it, that they did not approve this, that this was approved by Mr. Johnson, that you'll have to talk to them, their opinions of whether it was right or wrong. I'm not going to speak for them, but they would not sign it. it just seems to me a lot like Craig said, there's two sets of standards here. And I think the school board should not be political. I think you've got plenty of other things to worry about, especially money, that you should not be involved in this kind of political efforts for whomever or whoever y'all guys feel that you would like to support. I'm very proud to work for Iredell-Statesville Schools. I think it's the best system in the world. I love it. And our system should be above anything like this. These kids up here tonight, they show you how great everything is and how great our teachers are. And I'm just very disappointed that we've run into this problem. Thank you.
Next speaker is Chris Carney.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for having me. I'm not here to speak about that. I'm here to speak about the different programs and that you have within the county currently. And as a parent, I've had an opportunity to meet most of you over the years, and certainly in my other positions, I've had an opportunity to certainly talk to you guys. In this case, as we see the kids come through here, we have had such wonderful program, whether it be ag at the North Iredell we saw earlier, whether it be the CATS program, whether it be the IB programs. Continually, I kept hearing in Raleigh about how we had to tell the systems how to be successful, and Iredell has not lived by that. Iredell has led the way, and I appreciate that. We have great school systems in this county. We have great principals. We have great teachers, and we found that when you put a great teacher in front of kids, we have great success at the same time. I want to talk to you specifically about the IB program because that's the program that my children are in. And I have twin daughters that are ninth graders, and you know in the